Hello friends, how are you? So today we are going to do a fun activity that has been taken from your book Marigold Class 3 NCERT from the chapter The Ship of the Desert. So open your book and turn to page number 104. So let's see what do we have to do here. Reading is fun. Yes, it's true. So there are 3 questions and we have to answer these 3 questions. Let us read these 3 questions first. So the first question is, why is the camel called the ship of the desert? So the first question is, why is the camel called the ship of the desert? We have to give reasons about this. Second is, for how many weeks can a camel store food in its hump? So they're asking for how many weeks can a camel store food in its hump. Yes, camels have hump in which they store food and water. So we have to tell how many weeks can a camel store food in its hump. Last question is, what does the camel eat in the desert? So we have to tell them that what does the camel eat in the desert. Okay, so these are the 3 questions that we are going to do today. Yes, so are you ready to answer them? So let's go. So these are the 3 questions. Let's start with the first question, that is, why is the camel called the ship of the desert? So what was the reason? Why was the camel being called the ship of the desert? Let's write the answer. The camel is called the ship of the desert because it can walk across the desert even on a hot afternoon. Yes, they can walk. Camels can walk on the hot sand of the desert even on a hot afternoon. And how can they walk? Because they have thick padded feet and they help the camel to walk on across the desert even on a hot afternoon. So what are the other reasons? Although the sand burns, it is not bothered by it. The camel can walk over it very comfortably. So the sand burns, but the camel is not bothered by it, and the camel can walk over it very comfortably, and therefore the camel is called the ship of the desert. Okay, let's move on to the second question, that is, for how many weeks can a camel store food in its hump? So we have to tell how many weeks, we have to tell number of weeks can a camel store food in its hump. A camel can store food for 2 weeks in its hump. Yes, if a camel eats a big meal, yes, it can store that food in its hump, and then the camel will not have any issue for 2 weeks. He will not feel any hunger. He'll be okay for 2 weeks. Wow, camels are amazing, right? So for how many weeks can a camel store food in its hump? A camel can store food for 2 weeks in its hump. So let's move on to the third question. What does the camel eat in the desert? This is a very crucial question. And you know why? Because in desert, there are no plants. There are very less plants. Not all plants can grow in a desert. And what is the reason behind it? Because there is no water and the sun shines so bright that no plants can survive there. So what does the camel eat? Camel eats leaves only. What type of leaves camel eat? Let's see. A camel usually eats thorny bushes in the desert. Yes, camel eats thorny bushes. And how does camel is able to eat these thorny bushes? Because of its thick tongue. Yes, those thorny bushes does not bother the camel because it has thick tongue. So why is the camel called the ship of the desert? The camel is called the ship of the desert because it can walk across the desert even on a hot afternoon. Although the sand burns, it is not bothered by it. The camel can walk over it very comfortably. Next question. For how many weeks can a camel store food in its hump? A camel can store food for 2 weeks in its hump. Last question. What does the camel eat in the desert? A camel usually eats thorny bushes in the desert. So these are the 3 questions that we answered today. You can make your own answers as well, and I'll be glad to see those answers. So do tell me. We will meet next time. Until then, bye-bye.